Committee hearing Tuesday, November 28th at 2 p.m. This is docket number 1384, an ordinance establishing street food enterprises in the city of Boston, Municipal Code by inserting Chapter 17, Section 22, permitting and regulation of non-motorized street food carts. Helping this hearing is staffed by Christine O'Donnell and Ethan Vera. Thank you to central staff, to the staffs of Councilor Mejia and Councilor Arroyo, and the panelists and co-hosts. We're first going to start with opening remarks, then sponsor opening remarks, administration openings and testimony, councilor questions, any public testimony. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Boston City Councilor at Large Ruth Lujan, Vice Chair of the Committee on Government Operations. It is Tuesday, November 28th, and this hearing is on docket number 1384, an ordinance establishing street food enterprises in the city of Boston, Municipal Code by inserting Chapter 17, Section 22, permitting and regulation of non-motorized street food carts, sponsored by Councilors Gabriela Coletta, Councilor Julia Mejia, and Councilor Brian Morrell, and referred to committee on August 30th, 2023. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting laws, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meeting in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, the City Council will be conducting this hearing remotely, and it is being recorded. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. This hearing is being recorded and is being live streamed at www.boston.gov/city-council-TV and on Xfinity 8, RCN 82, FiOS 964. To provide written testimony, members of the public can also email the committee at ccc.go@boston.gov. If members of the public would like to provide public testimony and have not signed up to do so, please email Christine O'Donnell at christine.o'donnell, ODONNELL, @boston.gov to request the link. I'd like to stress that we need information for people who are providing public testimony via video conference, especially if you are dialing in with a phone number or if you have an unrecognizable username, so please make sure that your name appears on Zoom. We have an interpreter for Spanish available. Once you've entered the Zoom meeting, click the interpretation icon at the bottom right of the screen. The interpreter is Gabriela Herrera and Erica Perez. Councilor Mejia, would you like to read this portion?
Sure. Buenas tardes a todos. Tenemos interpretación en español disponible. Tiene que entrar al Zoom y ya que hacen entrado, oprima el icono en el lado derecho de la panel. Nuestro intérprete de hoy es Gabriela Herrera y Erika Pérez. Si necesita el enlace para el Zoom, por favor, escribe un correo electrónico a Christine O'Donnell at christine.o'donnell@boston.gov.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. This ordinance addresses the challenges faced by Boston street food vendors by introducing regulations and a permitting process for non-motorized street food carts. Drawing inspiration from successful models in cities like Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and New York, it proposes the creation of a non-motorized street food carts committee with defined responsibilities. The ordinance aims to simplify the permitting process, reduce costs, and prevent unnecessary penalties for residents pursuing culinary businesses. It establishes rules for sidewalk vending, outlines permit fees, and details enforcement measures. The overarching goal is to create more opportunities for entrepreneurs, enhance cultural food accessibility, and contribute to economic mobility in the city. I'm joined by my council colleagues, and I believe this is the correct order, but apologies if we somehow got the order incorrect. By Councilor at Large, Julia Mejia, Councilor for District 1, Gabriela Coletta, Councilor at Large, Erin Murphy, Councilor for District 4, Brian Morrell, Councilor for District 2, and Council President Ed Flynn. I will now turn it over to my colleagues to give their opening remarks. Starting with Councilor Mejia.
I think considering that Councilor Coletta is the lead sponsor, it's the protocol that Councilor Coletta begins with her opening remarks, and then I'm the second co-sponsor.
Great, Councilor Coletta, you now have the floor.
Thank you all so much to my colleagues, and thank you, Councilor Mejia, for deferring to me as co-sponsor. It's been great to engage your office, and same with Councilor Worrell, who I think has joined us. And thank you, Vice Chair, and I want to thank the members of the administration for being here and their partnership behind the scenes to get us here at this point, and their collaboration to move this off of a page and hopefully with collaboration into practice. I also want to thank my team. I want to thank Ellie Sanchez, my chief of staff who wrote the ordinance and has done a lot of work. So thank you, Ellie. The goal of this ordinance, it's already been mentioned, is basically to formalize the informal. Street vending is the oldest version of commerce, and yet we don't see it flourishing at all in the city of Boston the way in which it should. But through this ordinance, we are creating and inserting into Boston's code regulations for street food cart vending or non-motorized vending. There's going to be a lot of interchangeable phrases here: street enterprises, street business enterprises, non-motorized vending, but it all means the same. And so this language does a couple of things. It establishes a streamlined process to make it easier and accessible for vendors to navigate city government to obtain necessary approvals. It sets guidelines for street vending zones with oversight of city departments through the creation of a specialized review committee. And lastly, it lowers the cost of permits and therefore barriers of entry for those who need it the most. I think the key takeaway here is that once we pass these regulations, not if but when, we will have the potential to unlock an economic tool, an economic mobility tool that does not require significant upfront costs the way that it usually does for businesses trying to obtain a food truck or a brick and mortar. The City of Boston, and we will hear from folks who have been doing work behind the scenes. Again, Hans, I'm looking at you and the Office of Economic Empowerment. But there are, unfortunately, the way in which things are done in the city is that there are various entry points for those who want to get into this business. And it has really become a barrier for folks. And we do intend to hear from vendors who have gotten a chance to know and understand, their experience and their perspective. And we will be hearing from them. Unfortunately, they could not make it at the 2 o'clock start time, but they will join us later on. And so we already have the food truck program, which was launched in 2011. It was hailed as an innovative idea to help business owners break into an unaffordable monopolistic market. And we see this non-motorized push cart street business enterprise regulation as a more affordable pathway and extension of this program. So if done correctly, this could be the future of local commerce. My vision and my goal is to get street food cart vendors in every single main street in our neighborhoods to really foster the economic vibrancy, not just in downtown, but in all corners of Boston. And that is my beacon throughout this entire conversation. And hopefully, as we work through initial reactions of the administration and working through what the benefits could be or the challenges, I really would love to take this forward to a working session, work through the details of the language, and understand what it might take to make this program a success. So thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta, for your leadership on this issue, for being lead sponsor and thinking about how we center and stronger economies in all of our neighborhoods. Next to the co-sponsor, Councilor at Large, Julie Mejia.
Thank you, Councilor Lujan, and thank you, Councilor Coletta, for adding me as an original co-sponsor. I'm really excited to see the evolution of what it looks like when we're being super intentional about creating as many pathways for low-income communities in particular to really enter the idea of being able to build businesses. We started off with our retail residential kitchens, and we have seen the impact that is making, but we also understand that there is an opportunity for growth and creating more opportunities for communication so that people can actually take advantage of the retail residential kitchens ordinance. As we begin to go through this process, I just want to make sure that communication, language access, interpretation, and all the necessary infrastructure is in place to ensure that people understand this incredible opportunity that is being presented to the City of Boston. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I'm incredibly encouraged by the administration. I see that they got a full house here, so that is definitely a good sign for those folks who are tuning in. Whenever the administration rolls deep, that goes to show that this is something definitely that is going to have the type of energy that we need to make sure that it passes. So really excited to see the strong presence of the administration here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Now to the next co-sponsor, Councilor Brian Worrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilor Coletta, for your leadership on it. As a small business owner, I know how hard it could be to, start a business here in the city of Boston. And one of the things that we have focused on here in my time in city councils is breaking down barriers to businesses, whether it's streamlining processes, trying to find ways to get our businesses more capital. And this is just another ordinance that speaks to just that, is how do we streamline it? How do we make sure that businesses have a way forward, but also lowering the costs for many of those in our city. So looking forward to the conversation. Again, thank you, Councilor Coletta. Thank you to the administration for being here today, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Councilor Rao. Next, we have Council President Ed Flynn.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Louis-Jean. Small businesses play a critical role in Boston's economy. I'm here to listen and learn about this proposal. Thank you to the sponsors for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. Next, we have Councilor at Large Erin Murphy. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for the sponsors for bringing this forward. Looking forward to hearing what the barriers are to small business owners trying to start businesses. So here for the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Now we're turning it over to the administration, who I understand there are hard stops at 3 o'clock for almost everyone except for Hans. So I know we have Yasha Franklin Hodge here, the Chief of Streets, Alicia Persena, Director of Small Business, Kristen McCosh, Commissioner of the Disabilities Commission. We have Hans Bastien, Senior Business Manager, Daniel Prendergrast, Assistant Commissioner at ISD Health Division, Thomas McAdams, Director of ISD, Chris English, ISD Chief of Staff, and Korean Reynolds, Director of Nightlife Economy. I will now turn it over to the administration for any presentation you'd like to make at the moment.
Good afternoon.
Are we having a technical issue?
It looks like Alicia, we're seeing a Director of Small Business.
Okay.
We're looking to speak. Alicia, can you hear us?
Alicia, you're both frozen and on mute.
I could jump in.
Okay, thank you, Hans. You now have the floor.
Thank you very much. First of all, good afternoon, Chairwoman, councilors. Appreciate your advocacy for providing more opportunities for entrepreneurs in the city. The Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, under the leadership of Chief Segun Idowu, is eager to play a role in support of the goals of the proposed food cart ordinance. We recognize that this ordinance provides us with a unique opportunity to utilize various levers of the city government in a coordinated, collaborative manner to address the unmet needs of underserved yet growing group of aspiring street vendor entrepreneurs. This is at the very core of our cabinet's stated mission of a resilient, equitable, sustainable, and vibrant city that centers people and creates opportunities to build generational wealth for all communities. So we certainly look forward to playing a role in moving this ordinance forward.
Thank you, Hans. Are there other members of the administration who are looking to present or give opening remarks or statements?
Hi, folks.
Sorry,
Sure. I actually was just going to say, first of all, thank you, members of the council, for inviting us here. I don't have any substantial opening remarks, but to echo Hans, I think the Streets Cabinet is excited about the opportunities that an increase in street vending could provide, both in terms of the economic opportunities that opens and the way it can improve the vibrancy of our neighborhoods. And so we are here in a spirit of collaboration with the council and with our fellow departments to work through some of the questions and details that we know need to be resolved to make sure we get a program that is structured in a way that works well for Boston and for the vendors who want to participate in this. So here mostly to answer questions and provide support for the general direction we're headed in.
Thank you, Chief Franklin Hodge. If there are no other comments or opening remarks from the administration, feel free to raise your hand or just get off of mute if you're a member of admin and want to speak. But if not, I'm going to turn it right back over to my colleagues who are the lead sponsor and the co-sponsors. So Councilor, and just because of the time limit of the administration, I'm going to try to limit everyone. Director Persena is back. Director, if you can get off mute and speak, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm going to be off camera just to make sure that my internet does not go out. And so I just want to say good afternoon and thank you to the chair of the committee and lead sponsors on this docket. And I also want to thank you for your continuous efforts and advocacy to provide more opportunities for our entrepreneurs. Your advocacy is always appreciated. And so I believe Hans said some brief opening remarks. However, we recognize that this ordinance provides us with a unique opportunity to utilize the various levers of city government to coordinate and address unmet needs for the deserving entrepreneurs and vendors in the city of Boston. We are committed to working alongside the council offices to create a program that's equitable and that makes sense and meets the needs of businesses where they are. We are requesting that we move forward with on a working document to update the ordinance and create opportunities where business owners will have say and how this process will roll out before establishing a formal process for this. We do want to get feedback and want to make sure that throughout this process, we are holding the business owners at the center of this work, and therefore we look forward to working with you to support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Persena. I will now turn it over to the lead sponsor, Councilor Coletta, for your questions of admin. I'm going to give you some leeway, Councilor Coletta, as the lead sponsor. I'll give you 7 minutes. Hopefully 5 minutes will be enough for everyone thereafter, just for the administration, just so that we can try to get everyone's voice in. So, Councilor Coletta, you now have the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm looking at my clock. I'm giving myself until 2:30.
Don't worry, I have my alarm.
All right.
I'll stop you when I got to.
You got me. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Really, I am so encouraged to hear the echoes of support in this public forum, and I just want to thank all of you so much for your partnership and your collaboration. To hear from Chief, the Office of Small Business, and I do see ISD on the line, so I would love to get your perspective at some point, but don't worry, I have tons of questions about the present process, the current process for health inspections, approval, and enforcement, and what this might look like for you all in your division, and I promise I will get to you, but I would love to set the stage a little bit for folks who are not as in the weeds as we all are in this conversation, and just provide a roadmap of the current process. I mentioned that there are multiple points of entry. And one question that I had posed in a meeting a couple months ago was, if I am a person, for example, who doesn't speak English, but my work is to sell fruit, fruteros is what they're called in many Central Latin American countries, where do I go first in the city of Boston? And then based on that, where do I go next? Is there a set checklist? Is there, is there somebody to basically liaise between myself and the city of Boston out of the Office of Small Business, and then understanding exactly, so the process in which it is now, and then understanding the list of permits and approvals necessary, just so we can set the framework for those who are listening on.
So I'll initiate the response. So for the most part, we have existing processes in place. Certainly, granted, they're a bit disjointed, a little convoluted, not necessarily the easiest to navigate, and that's one of the really encouraging things about this piece of ordinance, is that among one of the things that it aims to achieve is a more streamlined process. So is there an application? Yes, there is an application. Is there a set of specific fees that one aspiring to be such a vendor would have to pay? Yes, they are. Is it easy to find? Not necessarily. I would imagine that the person that holds the title of Mobile Enterprise Manager is the de facto liaison between the prospective vendor and the city, although that's not necessarily explicitly stated, because currently that role primarily manages the food trucks and food trailers. But from my vantage point, it would not be that much, it would not add that much more complexity just to layer on top of the existing process that we use, for example, for the food trucks, in a similar fashion that we might use for the food carts. So one of the first steps in the process is the application, and the application will state that you may need to go to fire and or health depending on what is being sold, and then that's going to trigger a set of permitting that you may or may not need. So I had the benefit of having a brief conversation with Mr. McAdam, and by the virtue of a piece of fruit being chopped up and sliced and put into a package that's considered processed, and if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure they will correct me on this call, that is going to require some type of refrigeration. So that's what the health department would inspect. On the reverse, if it required that it be heated at a certain temperature, that means there's going to need to be possibly some open flame or something of that nature. That's going to get the fire department involved. So that's kind of what happens at the initial stages. But where I think the bottleneck is reached is once the vendor, let's say they get the fire approval, they get the health approval, they still need to find a location to vend. And I think that's where the process is the murkiest, because that's not clearly stated. And to give you a kind of a comparison, for the food trucks, there's clearly designated zones, public zones. It's known, it's transparent. For these proposed food carts, that's not as clear.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that. I guess I'll look to the streets department next and then go to health and just understand, when you get an application, the application that Hans is talking about, what does the internal process look like now? I guess both for the food truck and the mobile food cart, non-motorized carts, just so we can hear the difference.
So I will actually, I think, need to get back to the council with a little bit more of the sort of detailed evaluation process that we have right now for the existing food truck and stationary vending permits. I don't have kind of ready at hand a level of detail that I think will fairly and accurately represent the full process. By and large, though, we do not have a substantial number of new applications that we see for this kind of outside of a few specific locations where there's designated programs set up, where we're not permitting a significant volume of small mobile or stationary food truck or food cart applications. And I think it speaks to, as Hans indicated, the sort of complexity and murkiness of this process. We do not at present have a process for identifying and designating appropriate locations for new food vendors to establish themselves. And it's something that I think is historically where there are pre-existing businesses, for example, in the area around Fenway Park. It's much of the detail of how the individual businesses were granted the locations that they have is sort of lost a bit to the mists of time, and those locations tend to be sort of fiercely guarded and not with a process that kind of reflects opportunities for new market entrants to come in a reasonable way. I'm happy to get back with a little bit more detail on the specifics of the food truck location, although I think we have some folks on the call who can maybe speak to that, because much of the location work and the system for allocating who goes where is actually handled outside of Public Works.
Right. And I am looking at my time. I would love to go to ISD just for their
one more question, Councilor Coletta. Yeah, you can ask one more.
I will just say, so in my, hopefully we'll get a next round, but I do have some questions about the proposal in particular, and any challenges or benefits that you all can see. But what we do propose is similar to the Special Events Committee, where we bring everybody to the table and we're all in one place, and it basically is a passport program where you have EMS, BTD, Public Works, ISD, I'm going to fire, and they all review applications, and it happens on a regular basis. And so that's something that I'm hoping to mirror through this committee, and then also establishing those specialized zones the same way that we do with food trucks. But I know that the Streets Cabinet and we also have the Disabilities Commission on here. Both of your perspectives are going to be integral to what that looks like moving forward. Dan or Chris, I would love to pass it to you about what the current process is now for inspection approval and then also enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councilor. For those who don't know, my name's Dan Prendergast. I'm the Assistant Commissioner here at ISD Health. Hans, as a fellow colleague, I'm not sure I could have said it any better. ISD Health does now currently have a process in place for people to apply for and be issued health permits. And we do now currently issue permits for what we call mobile food push carts. I know Chief Hodge referenced the sausage vendors down at Fenway Park and in other areas of the city. Those push carts that are non-motorized currently do have a health permit with the City of Boston. I would concur and agree 100% with Hans as well. I think the difficulty or the murkiness is really ISD Health can issue health permits, but we don't have any oversight or empowerment, so to speak, as to where these push carts can and would be able to operate. And, to speak to someone, say on a phone call or an email, it really does depend on where and how these proposed push carts would want to vend. For example, and just try to keep it brief, if somebody wanted to operate a non-motorized food stand, as referenced in the ordinance, if it's on private property, they would need to obtain a use of premises from, the ISD building division. If they were to operate on a city street or a city sidewalk, they may need some kind of approval from Public Works. If they want to operate in or around, parks, City of Boston Parks property, they would need approval. So really for the licensing piece of it, we have a process in place for motorized and non-motorized food vendors now. And we do currently and will issue health permits. We're always open for discussion and feedback if there's any ways that we feel can be, either simplified or less of a, potential burden for folks. We're open, to listen and implement as we have over the years. And, I think focus and attention, just in my opinion, really, is there a process similar to the food truck program where there either could be, thoughts and discussions around designated areas for people to operate and vend and, either try to minimize or just make it a 1 or 2 stop process, to gain city approval as a whole, and then permits can be issued with relative ease. So I hope that kind of answers the question a bit, Counselor, and that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Dan. I'll give my time, Councilor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for the answers, and thank you, Councilor Coletta, for your questions. Hopefully we will have time to loop back, but I want to make sure I get all of my colleagues. Next, we're going to go to Councilor at Large Julia Mejia. You now have the floor. 5 to 7 minutes if you can, and if we'll loop back again if you have more questions.
Thank you. So I just have a few. I'm curious, I believe there are currently 21 public sites for food trucks in the city of Boston, and I'm just curious if any sites have been identified for push carts. And if so, or if not, can you just kind of walk us through a little bit about what it would take to do a study like that or designate, and what the inner workings of that would look like? So if you could just start with that, and then I just have one more follow-up question.
So the ordinance, as I understand it, really frames this somewhat narrowly in terms of what the mode of operation is going to be, and that's going to be something that's going to basically be on a sidewalk. So unlike the food trucks, which are more or less squarely in the domain of BTD in terms of the locations, because they're on the street, they're not on the sidewalk, so BTD determined that. And that was done in large part with the committee. So the police were involved, fire department was involved, health, all the usual suspects were involved and participated in identifying those. Now, mind you, that was done over 10 years ago. So the food trucks actually need to probably be re-evaluated in terms of the locations. Post-pandemic, commuter traffic is not the same. So sites that used to be quite lucrative are no longer lucrative. And speaking to Councilor Scaletta's point, in terms of activating the main streets, what we may need to do is really start to explore where the greatest opportunities from a sidewalk standpoint are that are in the main streets. So again, this would probably fall, and I may be mistaken, so I apologize if I'm talking out of school here, but I believe in terms of identifying possible locations, that's going to start with Public Works and the Disabilities Commission.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, this is kind of exactly where I wanted to land, just to have a better understanding, because people think push carts and then they're just going to think that they can just pop up at any place. And so that's why I think it's important for us to hear kind of what the thought process is, so that we're making sure that we are setting people up for success and not having folks setting up shop in a place that may not be an approved area. So what type of technical assistance would you all, I guess this is more for, if anyone could answer this, kind of what type of technical assistance will you be providing people as they navigate through this process?
I mean, I'll just say I don't think we know the answer to that question yet, Councillor. This is one of the areas where the city has some learning to do, and I think some piloting would be helpful. There's a series of questions about locations. I mean, first and foremost, making sure that it is a safe place to set up, making sure that there's sufficient space so that paths of travel are not impacted, so that people with disabilities can still safely navigate the area. And then I think there's a larger kind of question about understanding what areas are of economic value, what are useful places, what's a place somebody would want to vend, and conversely, what are the sort of neighboring considerations that need to be factored into a decision about a location. So, as an example, I know one of the big concerns when the when the food truck program was set up was around competition with restaurants, and this sort of sense of like, well, I'm paying the lease and they're right outside my restaurant offering something and they're not paying the same costs that I have. So I think that's an area that there's some community conversation that's going to be necessary, and hopefully our Main Streets leaders can be part of facilitating that, to understand, if and where and how mobile food vending is viewed as competitive. And also, thinking through sort of just the nature of public space, right? And there's like almost an urban design element to this. So where does it add to the vibrancy of a neighborhood to have, where can it activate maybe a plaza that feels, kind of lifeless today by having somebody there and people who are, eating or enjoying something that they're vending there. So I think all of these are questions that need further exploration to help us understand where would be good places to permit these mobile carts to operate.
And piggybacking off of that, I think that's where nightlife can play a role in helping form or shape the designated areas, or identify even potential designated areas. So there's a coordinated effort and thoughtfulness in how we create some of that vibrancy throughout the city.
I was just going to defer to you, Director Reynolds, because having lived in New York for 10 years, it was one of the things that I noticed in terms of just like if you wanted to get a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, you would go to a deli at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there you had it, right? And so I think that these are the sort of things that I'm really encouraged by, because it also gives people another pathway towards they can have 2 jobs and do a little side hustle on the side. So I think that these are the sort of things that, as we continue to think about how we close the wealth gap for folks here in the city of Boston, this is definitely a pathway towards that. And it also provides a service to our nightlife folks. So, you know, it's a situation where everybody wins. And I think to that point, another question that we can hammer out a little bit during our working session is the hours of operation. You know, like I know that with certain businesses, there are certain times that they can operate. So those are the sort of things that we need to think about. And then I also think that with our Boston Public Schools, you know, right after school, a lot of the kids go and get their little pastelitos around the corner. And so these are just kind of more opportunities for us to really think outside the box. And so I'm really encouraged and grateful for the administration and your full participation here. Madam Chair, I don't have any more questions. I'm just excited to get to work. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilor Mahan. Thank you for your questions. I think it's actually really great that we think about like the nightlife component of this could be really, really great. So I'm really excited just by listening to my colleagues' questions. Next, turning it over to the next co-sponsor, Councilor Orrell. You now have the floor, 5 to 7 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Chair. And piggybacking off of what Chief Franklin Hall just said about the urban design, that's something that I'm really interested in is, you know, when we're talking about urban design, and I know there's an initiative around squares and corridors going forward now, and it's like, how do we make sure that, you know, our squares and corridors are being able to support, you know, some more, you know, economic, you know, some of these push carts to increase pedestrians, safety, you know, to create, you know, more walkability. So love to, you know, make sure that when we're, you know, having those conversations that we're bringing in, you know, the economics on how designing, you know, our squares and corridors can help us increase the economics within those communities. But going back to like Fenway Park, and I'm just thinking of like all the foot traffic that goes down there. Like what are the extra services, if any, right? Like that is needed around making sure that, you know, push carts have the proper structures and systems in place so that they can operate properly. And I guess what I'm saying more so is like, you know, there's going to be added trash, right, in areas, right? There's going to be, you know, increased foot traffic. Like what do we need in place, like around, you know, areas that were designated as push carts, you know, from a city standpoint, public works, you know, streets. What are the things that's needed to make sure that, you know, we're not increasing like the waste and it's not going overlooked or underserved?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to respond specifically on trash, you know, I think we would want to make sure that that the sort of public realm surrounding where these locations are being approved is, you know, that we're considering it from a trash and waste management perspective. You know, likely wanting to, you know, co-locate near locations that have litter baskets or add them where needed. You know, so I think that can be part of the site selection and designation process. In terms of other resources needed, I mean, I think you know, any new program places some degree of additional burden on existing staff, certainly permitting, as well as potentially enforcement. I think, you know, we don't anticipate the scale of this program at the outset to be so large that it overwhelms our permitting team, but we just sort of want to be mindful that anytime we're adding a new program, somebody's got to do the, you know, be at the office and help people with the paperwork and do the stuff that comes along with that. So we're always just sort of careful to, you know, be thoughtful about that and the potential need for additional resources down the road. I think there is a potential role for Public Works code enforcement in ensuring that this program is operating successfully. They are the primary enforcement arm of sort of activity and regulations governing the public right-of-way. That having been said, I think it's really important to recognize that this program is intended to provide a sort of low threshold economic opportunity, especially for people in low income communities. And so we actually, what I would say is it's going to be really important to have non-enforcement resources that can be the front line to supporting people who are participating in this program, to help make sure that they are compliant with the rules, that they are getting, if they're doing something they shouldn't be, that the first way they find out about it isn't that we slap a $100 ticket on their cart, but rather that somebody comes and talks to them and helps them do the right thing before we punish them for doing the wrong thing. And so that's an additional kind of human resource need that I think is going to be really important to go along with this program, so that public works code enforcement doesn't end up being the sort of the only thing that we have as a tool when there's an issue.
She Hans has his hands up.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it would be a high class problem for the biggest concern to be that there's trash, because that would indicate that there's volumes of business. So right now for the food trucks, there's already regulations in place in terms of how that's mitigated. So they're responsible for that. So the same standards that we would apply to the food trucks as far as how they manage waste and trash, we could apply in a similar fashion to the food carts. So from my standpoint, that's not as big of a concern, especially if we kind of lean into what Chief Franklin Hodge has suggested, is that perhaps that this be initially launched as a pilot program, which means there would only be a few designated areas. I think that would be make it a little easier in terms to manage initially, because if we've already designated the zones where this is going to be permitted, anybody outside of those zones, we're going to know that they're in violation already. So if we establish 4 zones within 4 different neighborhoods throughout Boston, we already know that those are the zones. Anything outside of that is in violation. There should be no one vending outside of those zones. So, for example, right now we have vendors that are operating in the gray on Newberry Street. Now it's not food, it's non-merchandise stuff, but they're setting up shop there. So we know right now that those aren't designated zones. There's nobody permitted to vend on the sidewalks on Newberry Street. So immediately we know that's a violation. So from an identification standpoint, I don't think it's going to be that challenging initially. And we do have mitigants in place as far as how we address trash and concerns about rodents and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and I think it's a great problem to have. It just speaks to the volume, but I just want to make sure as a city that, we're able to meet, because we're going to have, the residents calling in, complaining about or pointing out the other issue of the trash. So I just want to make sure that this is something that we're thinking of and, it's being addressed. The last 2 things I want to talk about is what's the current fees? And then also in terms of competition, can you sell any type of food currently as a non-motorized push cart? Like, just wanted it because I heard you mention the competition outside of some restaurants. So just wanted to see if can you sell any type of food, but then also just talk about the fees that are currently associated with opening up one of these push carts.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Councilor Worrell. So currently, the fee structure for a mobile food cart right now, a push cart, for example, as we mentioned a couple times, Fenway Park, a push cart mobile food fee is $100 annually. All health permits issued to all businesses in food trucks or push carts are good from January 1 to December 31st each year. And, that's a nominal fee structure that's already, that we're already charging and enforcing right now. And the second part of your question would be pertaining to.
I heard a remark around competition, so I didn't know if, you know, you could sell what's actually inside of a restaurant on a push cart. No? Okay.
Yeah, no, right.
So this is actually very interesting, and this is something that I think needs to be examined very closely, because we need to kind of, to a certain extent, reverse engineer this. So the design, what is going to be permitted on the sidewalk? So I know I have the physical dimensions here, 6 feet by 3 feet, and then that's going to inform the operator in terms of, okay, this is the maximum size that this food cart could have. Now, can I have a heating mechanism on it? Can I have a refrigeration? So the sophistication of the food cart will inform what types of products could be vended out of it. If it's a entry-level cart, you're not really going to be a threat to a brick and mortar restaurant, quite frankly. That's more of a concern when a food truck is trying to operate. That's when a restaurant is going to have some concern, because that's literally a mobile restaurant. What I think is going to be, what we're going to start to see vended are things like empanadas, tamales, cut fruit, if we look at other markets, if we look at Los Angeles, if we look at Washington, D.C. So I don't know how much pushback we're going to get from the merchant community, and that's going to inform us in terms of where the zones are.
Awesome. No further questions. Oh, Dan, I saw you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit more, and Hans, touched on it, the types of food. So we don't currently have any restrictions as far as the types of foods that can be prepared on a push cart as opposed to a mobile food truck. I don't want to speak on behalf of other departments, but currently for our mobile food push carts, if they need combustible to produce flame and heat, for example, on a cooking surface, a 20-pound propane tank or less doesn't necessarily need a Boston Fire Department permit, but anything over 20 pounds would require the Boston Fire Department to issue a permit for that vendor in that fuel tank. Typically a mobile food truck has more combustible. They have generators, etc. on them. So therefore those food trucks need to get permitted each year by the Boston Fire Department as well. So it really depends on what a particular non-motorized food vendor cart would want to do. And we would best advise and guide them through. If it's 20 pounds or less, then they wouldn't need to go to the fire department. If it's more, then we would advise them to go there. So, hopefully that, provides a little more clarity for you. But we don't typically limit the type of food that they want to sell.
Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate both of your answers. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Rao, and thank you for your questions highlighting I agree it'd be a good problem if our problem is one of too much trash. I also want to give a shout out to Public Works, Mike Burrell, and ISD, Dennis Roach, because they've been just phenomenal in terms of whenever we have issues of trash. So I just want to kudos to our Public Works team for NISD, because we have some major issues that we're working on in the city, and they're just always ready and available. So I have no doubt that they'd be ready and available here, although we may have to increase our resources as a city to really help address, and we already need to do that. I'm going to circle back to, I thought Councilor Murphy was on, but she's no longer on at the moment. I will circle back to the lead sponsor, Councilor Coletta, if you have any additional questions for administration.
Yeah, thank you all so much for this conversation. And I forgot to mention before that I understand that this is a working document. There will be changes. This has all just been very informational and helpful moving forward. So I do look forward to, at a working session, getting down into the nitty-gritty of the language line by line. I know that Dan Lander from the Office of Policy has been looking into this as well. And so with that in mind, just understanding that this is more of broad brushstroke of this idea and getting into, what it could look like in terms of pushing it from ideation to execution. I'm just going to anchor all of us in just what I'm hearing, and then leave the specifics, which is what I wanted to get down into today for the working session in the near future. But what I'm hearing is just the bifurcation of this proposal. So it's under the buckets of internal City Hall and then externally outside of City Hall, what that looks like. And I'm definitely a flowchart person, and I would love for at some point moving forward in the working session to get this flow chart for folks who are going to be submitting an application moving forward, like where to go. If you don't need fire, then you go here, and just making it as easy as possible in multiple language for folks if we decide to move forward with this. But internally in City Hall, so what this ordinance will do is basically create a passport program. So getting everybody together all in one room, reviewing the application, understanding, okay, they have this permit, they don't need this permit, and then the approval process happens quickly. That includes everybody on this call and others. Through that, also the technical assistance that Councilor Mejia had mentioned, and making sure that folks have everything that they need to succeed. I know the commissary kitchens had been brought up too, and that's something that maybe we can get into in the next conversation, but if you plan to have food sold on a sidewalk, I know it has to come or originate from another place where there is refrigeration and all of that. And through another ordinance that I'm proud to co-sponsor with Councilor Arroyo, I had asked for an audit of all of the commissary kitchens in the city of Boston through the Office of Food Justice. So I feel like there's a common theme here. And so I would love to understand in next conversation, just prepping people, what that would look like in partnership with commissary kitchens across the city. And then there's obviously the oversight of the approvals process, what that committee looks like, what you all would be in charge of, and what that might look like to establish these zones. And that gets into the external part, but there was something that was brought up with Councilor Orwell, which I think is very important, is the staff capacity and resources. So there are programs right now in the city of Boston that are beautiful and wonderful that bring people together, like the block party applications. However, my understanding is that there is a bottleneck in some departments of approvals for street closures, for example, and that is just one example. I don't know if that's actually true, but there is a bottleneck and approvals don't happen as quickly. So we want to avoid that as much as we can. And build this out internally in City Hall as well as outside. But then establishing the zones, it will take multiple conversations with the community and merchants and business owners, and I'm cognizant of that, and I look forward to leaning into that work and understanding where to go from there. And then last but not least is just the oversight and enforcement, which I think is secondary. We don't want to punish anybody for trying to build generational wealth. I actually would love to get rid of the approvals from the Boston Police Department. You basically have to get a character assessment by your local officer, which is insane to me. But that is something that lives in state law. It's the hawkers and peddlers license, and that would need a home rule petition to remove. So that's just an example of things that we're thinking of to just break down barriers and not punish anybody. Chief, I see your hand up. I don't know if you want to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. That was an incredible summary. I want to add one other just topic to the list, since it didn't come up so much in our conversation, which is, when we permit economic activity in public space, or when we permit an economic activity at all that has a sort of cap on how many people can do it, we tend to create winners and losers, like it or not, right? And there's a lot of different mechanisms that are set up to manage that. Our food truck system uses an annual lottery that essentially assigns spots based on a lottery process. That might be an approach that we could take here, but we also have a lot of examples of cities not doing this very well. You think about the way the liquor license system works, or the way the taxi medallion system used to work, or the way our Fenway Park food vending works today. These are not examples of kind of sort of fair allocation of a highly sought after but limited resource. And so I think this is going to be one of the most essential things to making sure that this program is successful, is to have a process whereby we are opening the door to new participants on an ongoing basis, and that we are giving people a level of certainty about, what they can and can't do, and that we're not setting ourselves up where, our permitting office has to adjudicate between two vendors that both want the same space, or somebody who was there last year and maybe wants to be there again this year but can't because somebody else has applied. So I think just that, how do we divvy up this limited resource is just going to be a crucial issue to making sure this meets the goals that you've so well articulated for this program. You're muted, Councillor.
Thank you. That is a fair point. We did put in a limit on the amount of licenses if it was 3 or 10% or whatever is greater. So hopefully that could limit the monopolistic market that liquor licenses has produced in the Commonwealth. But where there is going to be limited and finite space, it is going to be key for us to think about that. And I do appreciate it. And I just really look forward to again, getting into the details, getting into the weeds, and producing something that is hopefully first step is a pilot program. I do also want to call out the fact that MIT has been incredible in terms of their innovation of developing push carts that are modern and have just all of the trinkets that you need that are safe and wonderful. So I would hope to have them involved in, if we are thinking about procuring push carts for folks to kickstart people on this journey, that we look to MIT and the innovation that's happening there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coletta. Just going to check to see if any of my colleagues have any additional questions. Councillor at Large Julia Mejia.
No, Councillor Louisiana, no questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Morrell.
No further questions.
Thank you, and I'm just going to do a scan. I don't see any of my other colleagues here, and I know that the administration is folks are on a tight schedule. It's 3:04. Sorry, not exactly 3 o'clock, but thank you for staying along, and thank you to my colleagues for asking such great questions. We will be moving to working session, and we'll have your presence there in the future, hopefully. But you are now free to leave. Thank you. Or if you're free to hang on and hear statements, we have some folks from public testimony lined up. So if there's anybody who wants to hear those, you're more than welcome to stay on for that as well. But thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, everybody.
Councillor. Thank you.
Chair, just a quick flag. Our vendor who had hoped to get on is not going to make it.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So just flagging that for you. And if you wanted to go to public testimony, obviously that's up to your discretion, but wanted to flag that.
Great. Okay. Do we have anybody else from the public who should speak before I turn it over to public testimony? Is that everyone? Councillor Coletta, Councillor Mejia. It is? Okay, great. Sorry, I thought I had exited out of my Zoom. And so now I will turn it over to public testimony. It looks like we have one person signed up. Are they here or in the Zoom room?
Hi, Councillor, it's Christine. I don't believe that anyone has signed up. It was just the vendor from.
Oh, okay.
No one else has signed up.
Okay, and that vendor was Martha Alicia Plates?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we hope to have her in the future. And Christine, can you tell me that means there's no one in the Zoom room who currently wants to offer testimony or no one who was asked to speak?
That's correct.
Okay, well, if that being the case, I want to thank again the members of the administration who are still here. I want to thank my colleagues. I want to thank members of the public for tuning in to think about how we can really be intentional about bringing more people into our economy with non-motorized street food carts and really expand what is possible by looking at models in other cities. I look forward to the future working sessions. We will keep this docket in committee, correct, Councillor Coletta? And we will move on towards our working session. This hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you again.